Aloha, everyone. Good morning.
Morning. Thanks for joining us today. We're grateful that you guys are here. We're grateful to Schools of the Future for making this conference happen, overcoming all the challenges that have come this way recently, and grateful for Maryknoll for supporting our work and letting us be here today. We're gonna talk about our Solutionary Project. So I'm in my 15th year of teaching. Oh, we're gonna do a little introduction first. Get my slides going. Yeah, I'm Ryan Smith. I'm from the Bay Area. I've taught at Cardinal Newman High School in the Bay Area for 10 years, and then 5 years ago I moved to Maryknoll School. I teach English 11 and AP Language. Kristie?
Hi, aloha. I'm Kristie Nourrie, and I've been teaching here at Maryknoll School for about 8 years. I actually teach two subjects, English and art, and I love to involve artistic, creative writing into English, as well as some critical thinking into art.
Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Dallas Uti. I am a former Maryknoll teacher. I worked with these wonderful teachers last year. I'm currently at Kaiser High School and I am the ELL coordinator and English teacher as well.
Yeah, so I've been teaching for 15 years, and I had what I call like a mid-career crisis. Like there's these two big questions that I just haven't been able to answer, and I just really want to answer them, like the things I really want to figure out. One of the problems I think I'm sure you can relate. How do you get kids to care about the reading, right? How do you get kids to care about like the quality of their writing? How do you get kids to be curious and engaged with the work, right? Too many students don't really do the work because they don't see the purpose. Too many of those who do it, they don't do it with purpose. They don't do it with commitment, with interest, right? The second big question is like, how do you get kids to have like a transformative experience, right? Where they come to class, one person, they leave like a better person, somebody who would call the class memorable and an important part of their like growth into being an individual or being an adult. Too many kids leave my class as great, better readers, better writers, but do they like better people? Like I really wanted to accomplish that, right? I know those are lofty goals, and sorry to disappoint you. We totally don't come here to present the answers to these questions. We don't know. We don't have all the answers, that is for sure. What we did do is try something new to try to sort of solve those two problems. So at the 2017 Schools of the Future conference, I was sitting in the big room, the good old days, right? And we were all together, and Zoe Weil was talking about her Solutionary Project, her Solutionary program that's through her Institute of Humane Education. And I was immediately interested because it combined like some of the approaches that I really, really believe in, like project-based learning and inquiry-guided research and self-selected reading and persuasive nonfiction reading and writing and service learning, right? Something I really care about, social justice work and issues. So I thought this could be really, really useful in an English class. It wasn't designed for English class, but I thought it could be adapted to be put to use. So we were just in a place of transition, and we were looking at kind of revising our English 11 curriculum. The class for a long time had been called Writing for College, and we didn't want to lose that. We still wanted it to be kind of a writing intensive class. So we decided to kind of keep the first semester the same in traditional poetry unit, short story unit, novel unit, and the second semester would be an entire semester-long project-based learning experience, the Solutionary Project. So one of the significant changes we had to make to Zoe Weil's project was that it's not an English language project, right? So we need to build in a bunch of writing assessments throughout the process so that we could still achieve our objectives for the course. We wanted the assessments to be really varied, right? Like some print, some textual, like some visual, some expository writing, and some persuasive writing. We just really wanted to better meet the objectives, the same objectives, right? That really didn't change. So we really wanted to make the writing better. And to do that, we want to just really reinforce the idea that good writing is based on the occasion and situation and the purpose, but really the purpose, right? We really wanted to add purpose to all of it. That would make the biggest difference. So I'm going to show you a video. The sound isn't very good. It's the way a 10 to 5 works. It has to come out of my speakers into my microphone. But this is a little introduction to Solutionary Project.
The world's problems feel overwhelming. And it often seems like we can't agree on anything. But we know how to look at problems and solve them, don't we, Poppy? Take a look through these solutionary lenses. Solutionaries see how problems connect to one another. They do research. They map out the systems that perpetuate problems, learn about who is harmed and who benefits, and engage in some serious critical thinking. Then, they come up with solutions that do the most good and least harm to people, animals, and the environment. They also look for ways that they can personally make a difference. I've got great news. There are solutionaries all over the world. But imagine if there were more. Imagine if we educated a generation of solutionaries. By making schools and communities solutionary focused, we can set everyone on a path toward effectively and enthusiastically solving challenges wherever they find them.
All right, this was the goal, to make our classes solutionary focused so that kids feel confident they can solve problems. All right, so one thing that isn't new, right? All of you guys know the value of project-based learning, inquiry-guided research, service learning. These are like really firmly established as useful things. So this isn't new. But here, Amy Conley really hits on why these things are really important. She says, many schools are investigating project-based learning to provide holistic and relevant learning challenges. Service learning empowers and inspires students to take their place in their communities, making both stronger. When we create opportunities for service learning PBL in our writing classroom, we invoke the magic of using language arts skills for students to create real, lasting, tangible change in their communities. I love this quote. It gets at like exactly why this is a useful strategy. Students are interested in relevant learning challenges. They like things to be hard. That it doesn't make sense, but it makes perfect sense, right? If you worked with high schoolers, they do want relevant learning challenges, and they do want to take their place in their communities. They are ready for that, especially juniors, right, who are approaching adulthood. We want them to join in the public discourse and take part in social action. And then the final sentence too, right? I love the sentence. It gets at the special thing about being an English teacher. We're like wizards. We're like the teachers with magic. We have our own Hogwarts. We can invoke the magic of using language arts skills for students to create real, lasting, tangible change in their communities. That's great. All right, so take a look. Just to give you a little overview of what we're going to do, we're going to move kind of fast, try to get through this whole like long project, right? We're going to introduce you to the Humane Education Solutionary process. This is not ours, this is theirs, right? And we like it. But then we're going to introduce you to the English language arts assessments that we designed for each of the steps of the process. The assessments were to try to meet the course objectives, right? And after we share the project and the assessments, we're going to share some student examples and then end with a reflection on some of our failures, things we could have done better, changes we'll make for next year. All right, this slide is, there's a link to the slides in the chat, and this slide has two important links. The project overview is also in the chat. That's a list of the process, all the assessments, and hyperlinks to all of the assignments and the rubrics. And the folder is a really big folder with pretty much all of our resources. My favorite conference presentations are when you go and they give you some great thing to try and they give you tools to get started. When you walk out with great ideas, but you have to create everything from scratch, that's really intimidating. So we've tried to just make everything that we've that we've made sort of available for you. We're glad for you to adapt it and use it to meet your needs. All right, Dallas is up next.
Thank you, Ryan. Good morning, everybody. So we were able to kind of break up this project into various parts. Each of us adapted it to our own teaching styles and the needs of our students in our own classroom. So the first two processes that we're going to talk about regarding just student investment, right? Like the whole point of PBL is to get them invested in what they're learning. And so this gave them an opportunity to discuss with one another, to really reflect on what it was that they value. In addition to that, we had to take those passions, those values, and we had to apply it to the local community. And so that was something that were the first two steps just to get them started and to really think about it. Once the student investment and the community impact was looked at, the next step for our students would be to identify a specific problem. Okay, now so for this step, it was kind of fun. And again, this is adaptable to whatever your own teaching style is. I wanted to play to their strengths. So for this step in the process, I actually told them to open up your phones, get on Instagram, get on Twitter, and find out what's trending. And the reason I told them that was because a lot of the issues that are happening, right, and social media, using what they're good at, they are good at finding out things on social media. And I told them, figure out what's going on in the world right now, use it as a resource. And so once they were able to identify things that were happening in the world, I said, okay, great. So if this is something that you're passionate about, you care about this specific thing, now make it local. And I really, and collectively as teachers, we talked about why it's important that students target something that has the most impact in the community, right? Because there's a lot of really great things in the world and bad things in the world that are happening, but how can we make that relevant to our local community? And so once students were able to identify that and figured out specifically what they wanted to target, the next step was to put it in writing. And so we really pushed the kids to be detail-oriented in their proposal. So they had to write down this proposal, the desired outcomes, how they felt that they were going to be able to target this issue within the local community to make the most change, to do the most good, the most service. And we really pushed them in their writing skills to kind of pitch this as if it were, a real life, almost like a business opportunity, and for them to look closely and analyze the effects of their actions. And then once, of course, they got through the written phase, which was, very focused on various writing skills, English class in general is not just about, writing. And so we had them actually pitch kind of like a Shark Tank style presentation. And we apologize. The audio for this when they created it wasn't the greatest, and it's not reflecting in the speakers. But for this particular elevator pitch, the students wanted to target a mural that was in Kaneohe. And so they did the various steps. They got various permissions and permits, and they decided that this was going to be their local community that they cared about. This is where they could make the most impact. And they pitched that to their class, and you can even do a panel of teachers. Okay, so thank you so much, Ryan. Back over to you.
Yeah, one thing that was really important to us was that students connect with researchers and activists, people who are already sort of working on the problem. We didn't want like simplistic understandings of the problems and solutions, but to understand the complexities. Like that's really important, especially as they get further along in school. That's a important kind of cognitive step that they make. They need to learn about what has been done on the problem, right, and what is being done to really devise a good solution. So, we asked them to write a letter, a business letter. They imitated the OWL Purdue website models that are there, and because business letters aren't really sent anymore, right? They just turn these into the teacher for a grade. But we talked about some of the differences between letters and emails, and we had them turn the letter into an email to then actually send. Kind of bribe them with a little bit of extra credit if they heard back, and some of them did. And that was really exciting for them. They they loved hearing back from researchers and activists. The other thing we had them do was to do an interview project, and again, to add more purpose and relevance to it, we designed it like a podcast, that we were going to have podcasts with episodes, and each episode would be a student interviewing a activist or a researcher. To practice, we had them do this in class, we paired them up, and they had to interview each other about their solutionary projects. We actually never made it to the interview somebody else phase because COVID hit in March, and this was a second semester project, so a lot of these outreach things that were planned at the end couldn't happen. I created a little script after listening to Fresh Air and showing them some Fresh Air interview podcast. And the script will help them do this with confidence.
I'm your host, Rihanna. Currently, I'm a junior in high school, and I'm interested in biomedical sciences. And outside of school, I love to play soccer. Today, I'm sitting down with Kyla to discuss her research and Solutionary Project. Welcome, Kyla. Thanks for taking your time to talk about your work. Tell me a little about your background. Hey, thanks for having me. I am also a junior at Maryknoll School, and I'm very passionate about art and anything creative. So, what did you...
All right, it was done very low tech. One kid played a song on their phone, the other kid pushed record, it captured the audio and the speaking. It was done in class with the tools that they already had, without any editing. Keeping things simple is always a good idea. Who's next? Dallas? No, Kristie. Kristie, you're up next.
All right, thank you, Ryan. So in order to identify the root causes of the problem, we had students examine potential solutions and determine the who and what was being harmed by the problem and who benefits. So this deep thinking aspect will cause students to develop reactions and solutions that will, number one, reflect a deeper understanding to the complexities of the problem. Two, how to strive not to harm people, non-human animals or environmental areas. Three, how it will help them to explore multiple potential solutions. Four, how it helps them to seek and avoid the unintended negative consequences. And number five, how to work together to resolve the underlying systems and perpetuate the problem itself. Through these processes and guides, the research begins. So in order to help students identify their leading analysis and solution in their fight against the problem, they were to complete research logs. So this is an example here of a research log. And we asked students to use a variety of resources such as books, magazine articles, videos, TED Talks, etc. And in order to get more a rounded research of comparable support to prove their points. So in the research log, they were given an assignment to complete 10 solutionary research logs to do in the projection of, say, 10 to 12 weeks. Each week, we identified one point to prove in mind to have students research for their project. So in each research log, they needed to state the essential question, which is right up at the top, along with 3 points to prove. And then they also identified what point they were going to prove in this particular log and what they were going to focus on. So they also had excerpts or evidence that they found important within their research. And then they stated their 3 quotes or excerpts in an MLA citation. They would also use critical analysis techniques that would use their resources to support their point to prove statement in a short write-up using quotes and excerpts along with their analysis. In the log, we also wanted them to identify the source that they got and formally stated in an MLA works cited that they could use in their formal essay later on. So we also wanted them to identify their probable cause and state why this source is reputable and reliable, because this statement helped students to look beyond the source to make sure they were using and identifying sources that will only help their solution and not be reason for faulty information. So students are to complete their written assignment with a formal research essay. Students were able to write a minimum of 6 pages for their research in an MLA format with objective summaries of the problem, a short-term effects, long-term effects, and proposed solutions, and also a written reflection. So the final research essay is a compilation of all of their research that they've conducted with their research logs, their community service, and their critical analysis of the problem itself. And then they were presented prior to their final presentation. So we really wanted the students to lead with their creative ideas, of course, on how to solve the problems, as long as the actions to solve the problem emphasize best on no harming animals, humans, and to get the root of the problem. It took a lot of coaching the students to come up with the best solutions that they could help the problem the most, and for some of the students to all work together in their group. We required a minimum of 10 hours for them to take action and get into the community to work with those that would make the most impact for a positive change. So students created a mission statement, and you can notice it here on this particular slide that they created for their website, which they were endeared towards completing. Students went out and worked with the community-based associations to find their solution and to work towards the betterment of their cause. So if you notice here, they kind of made these contacts and relationships with other foundations, such as the Catholic Charities Hawaii. So the Solutionary Project consisted of community service, and this is a community service log sheet. This sheet is to help identify and qualify community service hours and personal research hours to account for the commitment in helping to solve the problem. Students are required to have a witness sign and date the community service to identify their evidence, along with pictures and videos to implement the direct effect in the solution. And they were to complete 10 hours minimum in the community due to the influx of the pandemic. In spring of 2020, our students were unable to complete most of their community service hours, but many of them indeed completed it afterwards, or perhaps they intend to do it when the ban is lifted. I'll pass it over to you, Ryan.
Oh, sorry, Ryan. I think you're muted.
Thank you. We all know that that presenting of work is important in a project-based learning experience. So we designed 2 ways for this to happen. One, we wanted students to create weekly websites, and the website would be the one place where they would collect all of the different assignments. We asked them to sort of design them with these different subpages. The really interesting thing about the websites is they became especially important when they needed virtual, distant ways to share their work. But we envision these being perfect for sharing with people who are writing their college's letters of recommendation, or university application committees, or even employers, right? Would be interested in seeing some of the serious work they've done in the community. The last way is a TED-style talk. We applied to be a TED Ed Clubs school, which is quite easy, and it gives you a lot of great resources and access to their larger online community. The goal was to have more access to really high-end student examples of work and speeches, and to have a broader audience for their own talks. You can see on here the TED Ed student talks subscriber number is 62,000, which is quite a big potential audience for students. It's not about getting views and likes. It's just about having like a real audience to present your work to add more purpose again to the presentation. Sierra's video has 125 views, which is 6 times what she would have got if she only presented to her classmates. So the best thing about PBL really is look at Sierra. She researched environmental ethics, read peer-reviewed book published by University of Oxford, and made an amazing video. I couldn't have taught her any of that, right? She taught herself things that I couldn't have taught her, and went above and beyond even the high expectation that I set for students. So it's the assessments are not the fun part of the Solutionary Project. It is absolutely the students who do really, really impressive things. That's what makes all of this fun. It's the students. So let's transition now to the assignments, to the students, and let's look at what some of the kids did. Right, Dallas?
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, so the fun part. So our kids did a really, really great job. Even despite all the craziness, because COVID did hit midway through their PBL project. But so our first one, he was my student, Justin Baker, and his started with his pride in being Kanaka Maoli. He was very proud of that identity, and he really wanted to focus on this concept of why Hawaii is now so dependent on imported goods, and the way that he decided to go about that was to look at how the islands were sustainable in the past. And so he decided to take the approach of restoring the Ahupua'a system. And so he decided to dedicate his time and his service through helping to restore He'ia Fish Pond. And then he ended up interviewing multiple professionals in the field to share their Ike Hawaii, or their knowledge of Hawaiian culture and this sacred space, really. And so for Justin's experience, it became something that was really beautiful. It was something that he was able to make very personal, and it became a valuable learning experience that was beyond the classroom and very connected to his culture. Okay, so our next student, this was another one that was mine, Brayden. So Brayden's started with a conversation that was very interesting. He asked me in class, Mrs. Uti, what is the meaning of life? And I didn't have an answer for him. And so I said, you know what, Brayden, I have no idea. Let's figure it out. Let's make it into a project. And that's exactly what he did. So Brayden's questions constantly changed. His was one of those projects that he didn't really know what direction he was going in until he went in that direction. And so it evolved, it changed. He ended up conducting a survey with, he used multiple social media platforms, but he ended up conducting a survey that he got responses of over 1,000 people. And then the project ended, the semester was over. But Brayden wasn't done. And so Brayden decided to reach out to these two professors at Princeton, and he presented his project and these ideas to him. So he took his passion of philosophy and this question of what is the meaning of life, what makes people happy, and he was able to really reach out globally. He even emailed a philosopher in Germany, but he was able to make contact with these two professors, some of the most brilliant minds on earth. So it was a big win for Brayden.
I love that the professors gave Brayden some of their time, but probably just their lunchtime, right? They're like eating in the video, and that's great.
All right, thanks, Dallas. Here is one of my students in English 11 last year, and her name is Tessa Domingo, and she reflected on the multi-billion-dollar fashion industry and how it serves no purpose in creating fast fashion in this world economy. Tessa took the time to research and create fashion of her own using recycled materials to revamp a purse with old jeans and buttons from old clothes. And she interviewed local designers such as Kini Zamora and Melissa Miyashiro from the environmental resource Blue Planet Foundation, and was able to get their insight on how fashion and our environment can go through textile materials quickly that will fill up our closets and landfills with materials that are quickly and cheaply made in order to look chic for the new season trends. Here is Tessa to share in her experience researching fast fashion.
Hi, my name is Tessa Domingo, and for my Solutionary Project, I focused on fast fashion and its negative effects on our environment. I wanted to focus on this problem because I like fashion and I use it as an outlet to express myself. But I also have concerns on how unsustainable fashion negatively affects our environment and how it contributes to this rising problem of climate change. So I wanted to educate myself and others on steps that we can take as consumers in order to slow down this problem and the problem of throwaway culture. However, I did have challenges throughout my process, especially because of the current conditions. One of my challenges was coming up with a new way to approach my final project. Instead of holding a donation drive and upcycling pieces to sell in order to donate money for causes of climate change as I initially planned, I decided to create a small pouch using an old shirt I had and scrap fabric from a local business. I did this to show how we can create new things out of items and fabric that we would otherwise throw away. By doing this project, it made me want to be more aware of the clothes that I buy and where I buy them from, along with finding other stores and thrift shops that are environmentally friendly.
I want to mention Gordon. He's a really great kid. He looked into Oahu's waste management system. You know, we make lists of topic ideas, and we think kids are all going to want to research, you know, these sort of high interest topics, and then they pick something like this, and it's really, really interesting, right? He did a ton of research on exactly the way we manage our trash on the island, and he had two friends, Alex and Nixon, and they looked into homelessness, and then they put their research together. They decided to take recycle wood, to like upcycle it, right, and turn like old pallets that were going to be discarded and added to the landfill into useful furniture. So they made these two box stools and this little table, and we're going to donate it to a homeless community because many of the little camps around town, right, they don't have this kind of furniture, which would be sort of useful for them. One thing I love about Gordon, you can see his presentation here. I asked the kids to dress nice for their virtual presentation, and he wore a suit and a tie, and no one else dressed nice. Of course, they're all doing this from home. And I said, Gordon, you look, great. Like, love the tie. And with like an angry tone, he's like, I thought we were supposed to dress up, right? He was the only one who did it. But that's Gordon, just like always doing the right thing and doing his best. And I love their project. Connor did something great too. Connor's a quiet kid. He doesn't say too much, super humble. And he was really into, he's a cyclist, so he was really into traffic safety and bike lane issues. And so he researched pedestrian safety plans. And he, instead of kind of creatively coming up with his own solution, he just found a solution that the city had been working on, this Look All Ways program. And he decided to join their sort of solution. And in that city program, they make these yellow caution signs, and they install them at dangerous intersections throughout town. So he did this. He adopted an intersection. He made the signs, partnered with a parent, and has a cool video of him going out and on the street and putting them in. Again, the project didn't have to be done. This is one thing I really like about Connor's work. He could have stopped. Everyone got permission to not continue. But he carried on and completed. He wasn't doing it for a grade. He wasn't doing it for his GPA. It was just because he wanted to, right? He wanted to do it. He is interested. This is a massive victory for teachers when kids are doing things, not because we're pressuring them, but because they're interested. So again, this was really, really great. Just proud of him. Another one, this project ended up being a failure. They never were able to complete their project, but Kyla, Sierra, Noah, and Leah had this really ambitious plan to take a wall in Kaneohe, which you saw a little bit in the video, that had been a mural once, and then tagged, and then painted over, and tagged, and painted over, and kind of restore this mural. One of them researched environmental ethics. One of them researched the benefits of public art. One of them researched how youth are emotionally affected by the geography, like the neighborhoods, the physical spaces in which they grow up in. And one researched the cultural historical significance of Kaneohe. It was great. These research kind of all came together in this one public beautification project. They had to put in so much legwork to make this happen. They had to get like city approval, which took calls and calls and calls and meetings. They found out they needed insurance, so they had to have meetings with the school about getting insurance, and they had to talk to insurance agents about the costs and talk to donors about raising money for the paint and the insurance and the cost of the project. They actually got through all these hard steps, and they were just about ready to paint. And that's when there was stay-at-home orders, and they just sadly couldn't complete it. So Kyla's in my class this semester, so I said, "Oh, it's really sad that you guys weren't able to finish your project, that you guys had to quit." And Kyla's like, "No, we're not done. We're not quitting. She's like, I'm gonna paint that." I was like, "Really? You're gonna? The project's over, Kyla, right?" So I loved her refusal to sort of be defeated by COVID on this one. Again, it makes me happy to see kids who are invested and interested in the work. All right, let's talk about all the ways we screwed up, things we could have done way, way better. There's a lot of them. We made the slide with 6 spaces, and as we were talking, we realized there should have been 10 or 12 spaces. Dallas, you want to jump in?
Yeah, for sure. So there were a lot of failures. I've done PBL before, and every time I do it, I find out a way of something that doesn't work, right? And that's okay, because in the same way that the kids are learning, I'm also learning how to teach it, how to make it better. And so it was a really great experience. One of the things that I wish I had known going in, and when I do this again in the future, to tell myself, is that to make it very clear to the kids that your ideas are going to change. That's inevitable. The direction that you think you're going to go in now is probably going to pivot. And this is just an evolving process. So it's really important that you be flexible. That was very much so the case with Braden. Braden's, I can't even tell you how many times he changed his mind. But that's okay, right? Because that's the learning in action. That's him. You can see that he is actually learning, altering, growing, and just changing the project into something better. So it was a failure, so to speak, but it ended up working out and being all right. Kristie, did you want to go ahead and share one of yours?
Okay, sure. Thanks, Dallas. I think, as we all evolve and we're kind of trying to learn through this process, we allowed, because we were teachers that were working simultaneously on top of the Solutionary Project, we allowed some of the students to cross into each other's class and become groups. So as students wanted to work in groups that covered over 3 of us and the classes, it became a little bit more difficult to grade, to watch the presentations, and sometimes the students themselves had struggles regarding time to get together, especially through the pandemic. It was really, really difficult. But even prior to that, they had a hard time getting together, hard time, coinciding and coming up with agreement and splitting things up. So some of our groups are really large, like 5 or 6 of them, and it was just a little cumbersome at first. So our recommendation is to keep the groups smaller and probably within your own class would be probably the best. But we tried to make it a little versatile, and it was one of those things that you just live and learn. Thank you. I'll pass it over to you, Ryan.
I was going to mention the mentors. We didn't do more than ask kids to send somebody a letter or email or do an interview. But it would be great if students really had like a designated adult mentor for the project. Maybe it would be as simple as a parent or somebody who can just verify that they actually did what they've said they've done and can sign their service work, like the hours log that we created. But even beyond that, really finding a way to get people who are working on the same things. I would have loved it if Gordon could have presented his solution for Oahu waste management to their waste management board. Like they would have stood and clapped. Like they would have offered that dude a job. It was really, really impressive. He knows what they're doing, right? And he has some good ideas. I think it would have been really a great experience. So it would really be nice. I wonder if the school should get mentors on topics lined up, and then I help connect those people on our list with students who are doing topics on, on oceans or waste or traffic, right? Or maybe if it should be the other way, really, like part of the project could require students, like, you have to find a mentor, you have to reach out to somebody, you have to make a relationship with somebody, and that relationship needs to not just be a one-time event, but like regular conversations. That could be really great. I know that everyone knows this. Having somebody you look up to that you want to be like is really powerful in terms of helping kids decide on their identity and their direction. So that could be great. One thing I'm really excited about for next year is Maryknoll has found a donor who wants to support the project. He's going to work as kind of like a shark, and he's going to fund projects, give kids a little bit of seed money to get going. And the kids are going to send him, he's going to view their proposals and their elevator pitch videos and kind of decide who needs a little bit of money and kind of grant some winners. And then the kids will have him kind of as somebody they're accountable to. And I think that would be really great. When you've taken even a little bit of money, $30 to buy materials, to make brownies, to sell for the Humane Society, right? Even that kind of accountability to somebody will sort of motivate them to really put their heart and their work in the project, not to disappoint those who are a part of it. So I think that could be really great for not just the students, right, but like the whole school community, to make it all closer and stronger. We're almost out of time. If you have any questions, we're glad to talk with you or email with you about the project and support you as you maybe give aspects of it a go in the future. Send us an email, phone number if you'd like to talk, and we're glad to reach out to you in the next couple of days or after the conference. And one final quote. Thanks for joining us and giving us your time. Amy Conley wrote in the article we looked at earlier, what could your students do if you gave them the power to write the future they want? All right, thanks again. You guys want to say goodbye?
Yes, definitely. Just wanted to thank everybody. And PBL can be like a huge beast, but it's okay. And I know it can be intimidating, but even if, like, if it doesn't go the way it's planned, like, do it, because it's you learn a lot just as a teacher. It's really meaningful. So I highly encourage PBL. And thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We really appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you everyone for joining us, and we really appreciate your time and focus and attention to our project. And best of luck to you folks, and enjoy the process.
Thank you, everybody. Stay
Aloha.
safe. Thank you, Susie. Jill, I think you're muted. Thank you, Herman. Thank you,
Thank you, Susie.
Shansi. Sorry if I said that wrong.
Thank you, Shansi. Thank you, Herman. Aloha, everyone.
Thank you, Darcy.
Yeah, thanks to everyone for being here.
Good morning. I just want to see the only other person dressed up.
Thanks, Jill.
Thank you, Jill, for letting us know. Sorry about that. 2020